Okay, quick video here on clamshell operation. This 3-yard clamshell, it's an old bucket. You can see I'm out about 100 feet, 106.5. This bucket, you can see the weight right here. The bucket weighs about 7,300 pounds empty. And right here I can do about 11,000, which means I can't really pick up a full bucket. This thing will weigh about 16,000 when it's full, yeah, depending on the material. Like I said, I'm running 43 meters of boom here, which is way too much boom. I should only have about half that much for running a clamshell. Remember, when you're doing clamshell ops, it's duty cycle ops, you got to derate down to 80% of whatever your chart says. So I'm right here just about 8,500 is about all I can do in a in a duty cycle operation. But I'm not really doing that. What I'm doing is I'm picking up this little bit of material and swinging it up here for these guys that are backfilling. This little pile will take me all day. I won't get through this pile of sand and this pile of dirt here today. This thing, if you were really swinging material, probably could do a couple thousand yards a day, but not how we're working. So if you notice, you got 2 ropes. This is what they call a 2-rope clamshell, and there's actually a 3rd rope right over here. This is a tension tag line, and it hooks to a chain on the bucket there. And you've got a tag line reel, spelled R-E-E-L, and it's spring loaded. And you can see over here, there's right there, you can see a sheave that all of this cable is spooled up, about 250 feet of cable on here, and goes down there and hooks to that chain. And these pipes here have coil springs inside of them. It's a double barrel. There's 2 of these pipes. There's coil springs in there that hold spring tension on this line. That keeps your bucket straight. You do not want these lines getting crossed, getting twisted. If they're going up and down, they will cut through each other. That's a big no-no. And so you have a left and a right, and I have my main on the left and my auxiliary on the right. The left cable, which is what I've got tension on right now, I'll pull up a little bit and you'll see the main holds open an empty bucket. Okay, and let's run the auxiliary up and I'll show you what the auxiliary does. The auxiliary holds closed bucket. Okay, so you're constantly working these up and down, up and down, up and down. One of the things you'll notice is that when I've got a loaded bucket, the balance point on the bucket changes. As I unload the auxiliary, see the bucket tips to one direction. As I load the auxiliary, like a loaded bucket, you'll see it tips to the other direction. That is because the main is going slack. When you have slack in your main, you can end up back here having slack on your drum, and you will pinch your ropes back here on your drum. And so you have to constantly be careful when you are going up and down that you do not develop slack on your drum, and that if you have slack out here on your main can get entangled in the clamshell. So right now you can see there's slack on that main. I can run it down and you can see that chain is just laying on top of that bucket, and it can end up getting trapped on there and really damaging the top of that bucket. So you have to be pretty careful as you're running this clamshell to keep your tension on your ropes, on both ropes at all time. That's why I have that big chain on there. That big chain weighs about 200 pounds, and it gives me a little bit of downward force. And I leave the ball on there. The ball, of course, weighs about 600 pounds and gives me downward force keeps tension on the auxiliary. So I don't really have to worry about tension on the auxiliary because of the ball. And tension on the main, I can monitor because I can see the main rope right here. I can see it out of my peripheral vision. So when I'm working, I use my peripheral vision. As that main goes slack, you'll see it'll drop down. See that? Or as it goes tight, you'll see it'll raise up. And I watch that in my peripheral vision while I'm working to make sure I keep the proper tension on that main. It's kind of a balancing act there to keep that thing from getting entangled on the drum. And then the other thing you have to watch when you're dumping, as you go to dump, now I'll come down like I'm going to go to dump, the balance point on that bucket changes and that bucket tips from side. Yeah, see, it had a little bit of slack in there, and that made that bucket pop, or made that chain pop like that. That balance point on that bucket causes that bucket to tip from side to side. If you are trying to unload, if you're trying to dump in a very, very accurate position, you have to correct that. Bucket will sit there and rock back and forth like this, and it'll swing a little bit, and you have to correct that. And it's a lot easier to do when you're looking at the side of the bucket like this, because you can see that movement, and it's easier to do to correct just by bumping your swing a little bit. The other way, you can turn the bucket this way, but then you can't see when that thing is doing this number as it's loading and unloading. And also, that's not the way your shivs are oriented on your boom. So you have to use your main on your main shiv and your auxiliary out on your boom nose. And that puts them about, on this machine, about 6 feet apart. But you'll see the lift points here are only about 1.5 feet apart. And that's how far apart you want your lines up on your shiv, is the same, so that you minimize that torque swing as you're loading and unloading this thing. And so that's why I have it rigged the way that I do. Typically, I pick up this bucket and I move, and I might work it for a day or two. I've already picked up this bucket twice today. I picked it up, put it down, picked it up, put it down, because I have to my right, I have masons working, and they need me to sling a pallet of bricks or sling a pallet of mud, or a tub of mud. And then to my left, I have dirt crew working, and they need material up there for backfill. And so I'm constantly having to set this bucket down, unhook from it, pick up a pallet, swing it the other way, come back down, drop my slings, pick up the bucket, pick up some dirt, swing it the other way. It's quite a bit of jumping in and out of the cab, and booming up, booming down, hooking up, rigging and re-rigging. It's a lot of jumping around, but that's my day. That's how I work. That's the way this job goes. And I guess if I didn't like it, I could go get a job out in the oil field or something like that, where you just sit in the cab all day. But I do enjoy this job. It's commercial construction, and it's busy, and I work by myself. I never have a rigger, unless one of these guys on the ground wants to rig for me. I don't have a formal rigger. I just work on my own. But that's just kind of a brief show of what clamshell operation, two-rope clamshell. It's a fun way to run a crane.